Okay, great teens. Let's take a look at your general journal part 2. There's 3 more transactions I would like to explain to you. First of all, you are used to in grade 8 or 9 that the owner can take some cash for himself. Therefore, the CPJ, he could have credited your bank account, it decreased, and then you had an account called drawings. Now, drawings, as you know, was owner's equity that decreases directly. It's not an expense for the business. It doesn't impact your net profit. So what else can the owner take other than cash? He can take stock, so he can take some of the products from the shelf for himself. He can take consumables, any hair shampoo you need or whatever it is that you use as consumables. And then he could also take some stationery for his children. All of this is 100% fine as long as he records it as drawings in the books. He can take vehicles, he can take equipment. Now, equipment is an asset, as is vehicles. So you could sell some of your assets to the owner. In grade 11, you're going to learn about asset disposal, selling of your assets. Let's stick with the example that they've got in your textbook for the owner taking some stock and some stationery for, or no, he took consumables. Okay, so that would be on page 172. So if I look at the trading stock account in my general ledger, it is an asset. So therefore, the balance would always be on the debit side. If he's taking 500 rands worth of stock, I will put it on the opposite side. I will then enter it into drawings. And in my drawings account, exactly the same as you did with cash, it decreases my owner's equity, so it goes on the debit side. Then the other account that was also impacted by the owner is he took some consumables for himself. Consumables is an expense though, so it would have a total on the debit side, and now he's removing 90 rand from consumables. And then drawings again has your debit. So note here that you can actually total these two together as one amount. If I had to enter it, what I mean by that is if I had to enter it into my general journal, let's say that's the margin for the dates, and then you put your debit first. Now drawings is the debit account here. I'm still going to put 590 for both of them. You could write it separately, it just means more work. And then trading stock is your credit. Please don't use these abbreviations. And then consumables is the 90 rand as well that he took as your credit. So debits first and then credit. And note that there is nothing written in your debtors control or your creditors control columns. They are empty because no name was mentioned. If I go to correction of errors, I am referring to when there's mistakes that you would like to fix. I'm going to give you steps here to follow. Step 1, you're going to write down the mistake in your T accounts. So if we go with the example that they've given us where we made a mistake, which is page 172, we actually bought stationery, but the mistake was we recorded it in consumables. So consumables has got an amount of 140 that should not be there. I do want to just note the double entry here. The double entry was creditors control, not cash. But that's not where the problem lies. That is actually 100% correct. It was a creditor, so nothing wrong with that. Step 2 says that you need to now go and fix this mistake. So if I look at the 140, I would have to put 140 on the opposite side here to remove it from consumables. And step 3 requires that you do a double entry for that fix. And the double entry refers to the correct account. Now you bring the correct one into the picture. So I would bring stationery into the picture because that is my correct account. And I would debit it because I have a credit over there. And I want to increase my stationery account. What does that look like in the GJ? Again, if I draw my line in my GJ, my margin after the date, I would always write the debit first. In this case, it is stationery, and it's 140 in the debit column. And then a little bit away from the line, consumables, and that is 140 in the credit. Nothing under debtors and creditors control because there's no debtor or creditor involved. What can also help happen with the correction of errors is that there's a certain person's name. So this is what I referred to earlier when I spoke about debtors ledger and creditors ledger. So those are debtors and creditors that are incorrectly recorded. So what do I mean by that? There is an example in your New Era on page 174. So if you read it correctly, Mr. Gaffey, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Mr. Gaffey came into the picture, and he shouldn't have. But anyway, first establish, okay, what was the mistake? Again, go with step one. The mistake was Mr. Gaffey, he bought from us, and I wrote 440 in his account. There's nothing wrong with the double entry. That would have been debtors control. My sales account is 440, so that is all well. I don't have to worry about that. But now, if I look at step 2, and I need to fix my mistake, I'm going to remove 440 from Mr. Gaffey's account, okay, so that Mr. Gaffey had no impact. That's what I did there. Then step 3 is, what is the correct double entry? What is the account that should have been impacted? And that was Mr. G. Gaff with no E. So he should have gotten that 440 on his debit side. So if you look now at your double entry, it does make sense. If I refer to the general journal, I will put Mr. Gaff's name first because he's the debit, and I'll give him 440 debit, and Mr. G. Gaffey with an E will come second because he is credited. And note that you will also write this in the debtors control, and you will have a debit and a credit for that. Do your little narration and draw a line under your details. Last one, number 3, correction of errors if you got the wrong amount. Again, there's an example in your textbook on page 175 of this, and this is the amounts that I will be using. I'm doing 3 steps again just to fix this mistake. So first of all, you need to write down the actual mistake that was made. So let's say, for example, equipment was the account that was debited, and creditors control was the account that was credited with 560. That is not the correct amount. So you need to calculate the correct amount. So not the correct amount, the difference between the correct amount and this. So your correct, why is it jumping up and down? Your correct amount was 650, and now you've got this. So you are 90 Rand short. If you have too little in your box, you're just going to add to entry number 1. That is what your general journal entry will be. So you're going to put 90 Rand in the equipment account, and you're going to put 90 Rand on the creditors control on the same side where you had your entry. If you were looking at the GJ, then your debit would have been equipment right next to the margin. And then on the credit side, you would have put the person's, whoops, that was interesting. You would put the person's name on the credit side, and then just the 90 Rand over there, and then in creditors control also the 90 Rand. Let's just take a look if this example is not in your box. Let's do a different example where the amount was actually too much that you wrote in your box. Okay, so you wrote 560. That's what you wrote in your box, but that was too much. Okay, you should have written 500 Rand. So 500 Rand's the correct amount. You wrote 560. So you have got 60 Rand too much in your box. How do you fix that? On the opposite side of number 1, you will put the difference. So you are going to put 60 Rand over here, which will decrease your equipment, and you will put 60 Rand over there, which will decrease your creditor's control. And what happens in the general journal is these two will swap. Equipment will go on the right with 60, and the person's names in creditor's control will be debited.